And now we're going to review Marvel's Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is based on the comic book created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. I actually forgot who the guy who directed it is, but apparently the guy who directed it, his previous experience was all horror movies and whatnot. And it's set in the Marvel universe, the bright, happy, everything is jokey, even though the villains are trying to destroy the world Marvel Universe. Um, I will point out right now, I did see the movie in 3D, and with the special effects, a lot of the 3D was impressive. However, there's a thing that happens in 3D where if you have clipping where an object is meant to be perceived as in front of the screen, but it actually clips the edge of the screen, it sort of, at least with me, it blurs. And that is a little bit upsetting. But if that doesn't bother you, I actually recommend it in 3D. It's probably the only movie I'll ever recommend in 3D. The characters are Doctor Strange, who's played by Benedict Cumberbatch, Baron Mordo, who's played by, how do you pronounce that guy's name? Chiwetel Ejiofor, I think is how you pronounce his name. He was excellent. You have the controversial casting of Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. Um, take a moment. There's no particular reason why that character had to be Celtic. I know Marvel didn't want to piss off China by mentioning Tibet, but by setting the movie in Nepal instead of Tibet, they kind of answered that question. They could have used an Asian actor. That said, there's no particular reason why the character had to be either Asian or Celtic, other than the simple fact that the character is Asian in the comic book and it's an opportunity being taken away from an Asian actor. That's all I have to say about that. And then you have some evil dude who apparently in the comic books is a Baron Mordo henchman. Here he's elevated to the status of the film's sort of main villain. He's played by Mads. Oh God, I forgot his name now. But he's the dude that plays the main character's father in Star Wars Rogue One. Mikkelsen, I think his name is Mads Mikkelsen. He almost always plays a villain, and he plays a villain here. He does a good job, but it's a typical Marvel villain where they're saving the big bad for Infinity War. So he's not Thanos. He's not even Loki. He's some middle ground villain. Think the villain. Chris. Think the Ninth Doctor in Thor: The Dark World. He's sort of a placeholder villain here. Um, the plot in the beginning, Doctor Strange is the world's top neurosurgeon, and he is arrogant. He's not really uh, mean spirited. He just everything is about him, and he'll help if he can win. If he thinks that a medical condition is too bad for him to actually cure the person, he won't go in and do the best he can to make the person better. If he's not going to win, he's not going to play. And then, of course, he loses the use of his hands in a car accident, and he's looking for a cure. Um, and that's what leads him to Nepal. Uh, the middle of the film is all about how Mads Mikkelsen's villain is trying to save the world. It's one of those villains who wants to save the world by essentially destroying it. Basically, he wants to save the world by enslaving it, and that will be better than the world we live in, he thinks. And his plot makes comic book movie sense, sort of. There's a lot of action, and the action is really, really intense considering this is a sorcery movie. The way they fight in this movie is not, throwing firebolts at range. The way they fight in this movie is magically enhanced martial arts. They make a magic weapon and fight melee. They make a magic shield and fight melee. And if you're reading the current Doctor Strange comic book, that's kind of how he fights. He summons a magic axe and he just goes Conan the Barbarian on people. Um, the ending of the movie is essentially Doctor Strange has to finally put down his ego in order to win. There's a really great quote in the movie. I won't ruin it. I'll let Tilda Swinton deliver her line since it's, she's there. We might as well enjoy her because she's a great actress. Um, but the way he wins is by using his mind. He wins by outsmarting the villain. And that's one of his points in the movie is he's a Marvel hero, and Marvel heroes don't kill. And Baron Mordo is essentially a DC hero who wants to kill the bad guys wherever he finds them. He's essentially a magical punisher. Kill him, you only have to fight him once. And Doctor Strange is like, that's showing no imagination. And he wins by showing imagination. And the way he does it is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Um, the conclusion of the review. The upside of the film. The upside of the film is the casting is top notch. This is one of the best cast Marvel movies of all time. I don't think there's a single bad actor in the entire film. I honestly think even the people in the background, the extras, are brilliant in this movie. It's a great cast. Special effects are phenomenal. Most of the action is amazing. Um, the downside of the film, the Doctor uses his intelligence to win at the end, which means the final victory isn't a fight. The final victory is just outsmarting someone. And while that is actually very much in character, after all of the action of the film, it's a little bit anticlimactic. Also, the main villain, while he's played by Mads Mikkelsen, who is a great actor, he is a glorified henchman. And it kind of shows in the film. He's a little bit weak. And at this point you can tell Marvel is saving all of their big bads for their set piece movies, and you're getting second and third tier villains as the main villains in placekeeper films. And this film's a little bit too good to be considered a placekeeper film. Um, the final score for this movie is it's 4 stars. This is a 4-star movie. It's an excellent film. I do recommend you see it in theaters. However, it's not as good as the last 2 Captain America movies. Maybe not quite as good as, maybe just behind both of the Avengers movies. But once you get past those 4 benchmark movies in the Marvel universe, this is right in there with the other great Marvel movies. So 4 stars for Doctor Strange. Welcome to the MCU, Benedict Cumberbatch.